I know we are running a bit late, so I'm going to take as short as I can, which usually is a couple of hours. But today I'll make it short. Walter began by saying that sales is a part of marketing. And now I'm tempted to say that I should have said my presentation is a part of Sanjeev's presentation. Because it pretty much covered what I had to say. So it's a good thing for me in the bargain. I don't have to talk a lot. Couple of questions for you. Not just to check that whether you're awake or not, but more for my satisfaction. How many people here, is that for the video, the light? Can you switch it off for a while? Video light, please. Thank you. I want to see your faces. How many of you here run your own businesses? Can I see some hands up? That's a lot. Okay. And how many of you, those who raise their hands, are from a city other than Bombay or Delhi or one of the big cities? How many are from a tier 2 or tier 3 city? That's good. Okay. I see potential customers there. I really had to walk up. No, so I had the opportunity in the last 20 odd years to work for many large customers. Sanjeev was a customer of mine several years ago. In my 12 years I spent in my previous company, 6 years I was looking at after a part of Sanjeev's company's interest, first in Balsara and then in Future Group. So I know a little bit about how marketing and sales function in some companies. But in many other companies, from small companies which have got literally like half a dozen people, to large companies which have got hundreds and thousands of people, I've seen both marketing and sales. And the good thing is that I can't technically call myself either a marketing or a sales guy because I'm a bit of both, right? So it gives me an opportunity to comment on both. So I've seen companies like Samsung, which have got hundreds of people both in sales and marketing. And I've seen companies like BlackBerry, in a very similar business, but with literally less than a dozen people in both sales and marketing, right? So I've been lucky. Question for you again. How many of you have at least one person in the company whose title says sales sales manager, sales executive? Please raise your hand. I just want you to count, so it's about 35 people. And how many of you have at least one person whose title says marketing in the company? Right, 7 people, that's good. So we got a good audience here. That means out of about 35 hands I counted, that means I suspect 35 companies, 28 don't have any function or any individual whose function on the name card says marketing. So now I'm wondering, Walter, whether marketing is a part of sales or sales is a part of marketing. Right? Right. Right. This may mean nothing. This statistic is just to, keep you engaged. It may mean nothing, or it could mean a lot of things. The classical fight between Tom and Jerry, the sales and marketing guys, Sanjeev spoke about, and I'm going to touch upon that a little bit as well, usually happens when marketing and sales are two different people. And eventually two different people become two different departments. Quite often the two different departments report to one individual called head of sales and marketing in some companies. When they don't report, that's even a bigger problem, right? Because it may happen in many companies that the marketing head and the sales head report to the managing director, the CEO, right? Because they all believe that someday they should be the CEO. Now, if I believe I will be the CEO, what do? I'll do two things. I'll try to think that if I keep doing my job, whatever department I'm running really well, someday the CEO should look at me and say, you know what, you're doing your job really well, you should be next CEO. I can do another thing. I could say, you know what, the best way to be the CEO is behave like the CEO. So I will pitch to the CEO what he wants to hear. So if my CEO likes marketing or brand and all those other fancy things, I would tell him things like that, and I'll say I need to build brand, I need people, I need advertising, which by the way is a big face of the company. Companies are known by the advertising that they produce, and brands are known by the advertising they produce. Fascinating. So which means on one hand, we have companies such as Unilever and Procter & Gamble and maybe Future Group and many others who have become large, where marketing and sales functions have evolved over time and have now become large departments. or even if not large departments, with at least people with large egos. Right? Either way, it gives an opportunity to fight. People fight either because they have a point of difference on a principle, or just because they have egos. Right? More often than not, and this is the experience Sanjeev shared a little bit with you, I will share a little bit with you. More time than not, people end up fighting because they have egos. How many of you are wearing a watch right now? Right? Do you think any of the three hands on the watch, the hours hand, the minutes hand, and the seconds hand, has an ego? Do you think if it had, it would be fighting with the other two guys? So I can run faster. Supposing seconds hand said, I can run faster. What do you think the minutes guy will do? He will not know what to do. He will say, I'm slowing down. And next thing you know, your watch is a different time, my watch is a different time. That's the role of ego in a marketing and sales company. I'm not going to say no. It's very difficult to argue with the fact that synergy is a bad thing. Right? Synergy can probably never be a bad thing. Right? But I'm going to talk a little bit about how synergy, or rather how people do not become synergistic, and what are some thoughts or elements to ask ourselves on how to drive synergy between two functions. The good news here, I suspect, is that since you people, because you are not yet become the largest size you can be as a company, have not developed the marketing and sales functions as individuals, you have an opportunity to take some of these into account while you are building the team. Sooner or later, when, let's say, one of your company today is a 10 crore turnover company, and you have a sales guy to look after your turnover, your sales. When the 10 becomes 50 or 100, sooner or later you will start thinking whether I should have a marketing person as well, right? Maybe before that. Sometimes it's tempting to give sales and marketing job to the same person. I happen to work with some companies of which are mid-sized in what we call Middle India, which is tier 2, tier 3 towns now. I can tell you, quite often marketing and sales are used interchangeably. So my mom's gone to the nearby vegetable market to buy vegetables, and what do we say? Where has mom gone? Marketing. So she's gone to do marketing of vegetables. That's a little funny because, isn't it? She's gone to buy vegetables, but we say she's gone, for vegetable marketing, or she's gone for, I'm going to be Gujarat tomorrow to clothes marketing. We don't say that hopefully. Right? So it's interesting how quite often we use marketing and sales interchangeably. And I think while it may sound like a humorous thing to say, if you just close your eyes for a minute and think about that, it's quite a profound behavior that we quite often express, that we are using marketing and sales interchangeably. The theory of what marketing should do, what is marketing, what is sales, it's quite often well understood. Even those of us who did not necessarily go to a business school and got a fancy MBA degree, we know what marketing means. So what does marketing mean? Any quick quips there? What does marketing do? Sorry? Marketing does selling? Interesting. So, branding, promotion? Right. Absolutely. Fascinating, isn't it? Sanjeev said the same thing. Marketing has a simple job. It's not very complicated. What it does may sound complicated, but it's a very simple job of understanding consumers and customers, right? It does not begin, as all of us know, and many of you may know intuitively, many of you may have studied or read somewhere, many of you may have got the opportunity to hire very experienced consultants such as Walter, right? So, expensive also, right? Right? So, I'm not getting in there, but essentially, this is marketing. You understand your customer, you understand whether your customer is having a problem, and you figure out whether you can find a way of solving the problem. If you figure out a relevant and valuable way of solving the problem, customer will pay you. And that's the job of the sales guy. Right? And what does sales do? If marketing understands customers, what does sales do? Same? Execute sales, yeah? What else? Hardcore sales. Fantastic. So software marketing, hardcore sales. Sorry. Right, what else? So most owners or CEOs believe, rightfully so, that the job of sales is to get the money in. So usually, therefore, as you can imagine, marketing is treated, not always, but quite often, as a cost center. Because sales guy gets the money and marketing guy takes part of that and spends. Very rarely do people use the word invest, although most magazines, most speakers, most consultants now encourage business owners to look at marketing as an investment. But it's a little difficult, right? You think of investment when you know what your investment is doing. So you invest in a real estate, price is going up every 3 months. You invest in a stock market, you can read about it every day in the newspapers, right? You invest in gold, you can also track how gold is going up and down. When you invest in marketing, you have to spend more money trying to figure out whether it's actually going or not. Whatever marketing was trying to do. Just a little difficult, right? And I think, if you think about it, it's another core challenge business owners such as you have to face and have to overcome as you grow your business many-fold in the next few years. But how do I not look at marketing as expense and sales as revenue? Because that's like saying, then they have to start looking as if they are working against each other. And you know what? Who owns the watch? You own the watch. Somebody created it. That somebody who created the watch you're wearing on your wrist had given a brief to the hour's hand, to the second's hand, to the minute's hand. The brief was, you will function exactly as I tell you. You will not have an ego. You will not have a point of view. Imagine if your watch had a point of view. That someday in the morning it will wake up at 8, someday it will go at 9. Similarly, as business owners, as you build your sales and marketing functions, whether they are controlled and owned by the same individual, same department, or multiple, is what do you tell them? My guess, I ran a business for a large multinational company for several years. My guess is that they will behave, your sales and marketing people, the way you tell them in general. They have their independent point of view as well. But in general, if you are the business owner or if you are the CEO, you tell them, this company believes this is marketing and this is sales, and both of them start and end with the customer. Chances are customer centricity Sandeep spoke about will be driven into the company. The theory is simple. Marketing understands customers, sales get the money, boss gives a huge applause and pat on the back, and everybody is happy. And life goes on, right? The real life, unfortunately, is a little different. And I just explained to you how, while we all know that marketing and sales are probably two sides of the same coin, one belongs to the other, quite often, by using the two phrases interchangeably, we don't really see the difference. In real life, many companies do not think of marketing as a function. Many companies think marketing is a part of sales, not the other way around. That is real life. And therefore, in real life we create what I call corruption of the mind. We distort our thinking. How many of you have a car and drive it? How many of you have a car? Yeah? Right? So, what drives the car? Which element inside the car drives your car? Sorry? The driver? Fantastic. That's you, the CEO, the business person. Fantastic. Then, what does the driver do?
Use the horn.
Use the horn. Absolutely. You don't need petrol. You just need the horn. Absolutely. Because even if you have a lot of petrol but no horn, the car won't move. Fantastic. Well done. That's why you get money. I will have said petrol. Right. What else? Think about it. This is synergy. Right? It's the simplest example to give, but I couldn't think of something simpler than the car and the watch. If a steering had its point of view, you think the car will run? If the gearbox has its point of view and its own way of looking at how the car should move, if the car will run? No. Somebody had to give a brief, and that somebody is typical the owner or the driver. And the steering has to do exactly what it's told to do. The carburetor has to do exactly what it's told to do. The spark plug has to fire at the exact same moment as the carburetor throws, pulverized or, fired petrol. The wheel, the crankshaft has to move exactly at the same time, it starts seeing some motion. The wheels have to move in tandem. Two wheels can't say that, no, let me start move a couple of minutes later. That is synergy. One of the things you realize when you look at synergy is that in trying to make a bigger thing happen, you have to compromise on some of your smaller points of view. So to Sanjeev's point, sales guys quite often I've seen have a point of view on what marketing should do. And marketing guys have a point of view on what sales guys should do. They're both good people. But when you have a strong point of view and when the other person should do the work, chances are you get mismatched behavior. It's like in India, quite often we have a point of view on what politicians should do, what doctors should do, what our local MP should do. We have a point of view on everything other than what I should do. Right? The real life is very difficult. So what happens in real life is that people forget that synergy is not only about understanding, about empathizing, right? And it is not about telling each other how to do your job. Many times you would have heard you tell somebody to do a job, they say, oh, you will not teach me how to do my job? Why do people say that? Because proud people genuinely reject, right, interference. Proud people genuinely reject the fact that you're not doing your job, you're telling them to do how to do their job. That's real life. And therefore, what I end up doing is play the biggest game in the world, at least in the corporate world. And Sanjeev got a couple of comments about that, right? If I can blame you, my job is half done. Then I don't have to come back at the end of the year and prove that I failed. Now, if you think about it, there is a reason why this happens. Many people think synergy, which sounds like a very scientific term, because when oxygen and hydrogen merge in a certain composition, water gets created, and that's synergy. So we think synergy is all science. It's about processes, it's about common templates, it's about joint evaluation, it's about joint goal setting. That's how most companies drive synergy. And as you grow your businesses, I can guarantee you will be challenged to think, how do I drive synergy? Today we are talking marketing and sales. Tomorrow it could be synergy between your new product development and marketing. So marketing may tell new product development, I want so and so kind of product because that's what customers want. And your NPD or your product development team may say, no, I can't produce that. And they may fall apart and they may not therefore produce value for your company and therefore certainly for the customer. That's the science part of it. And I'm going to show you two busy charts but not read through this. Right? So you hire me tomorrow as a sales consultant and I can tell you 10 things your sales team needs to do that they're not doing today. Particularly questioning marketing. Does marketing really understand sales? Is marketing really interested in the survival of this company? You know what? Does marketing really have the ability to drive customer demand? I mean, I can go on and on and on. I'm not going to go through all this. I'm going to leave a copy. Any of you want to read, it's not worth reading, right? Nothing in life which is worth learning is worth reading. I can tell you that. But I can write like this, 40 slides like this, and still be very meaningless. And similarly, you hire a marketing consultant. Marketing consultant has one point of view. What should marketing do to sales? Ask, do these guys, you saw that video Sanjeev was showing. Right? Do these guys really understand marketing? Marketing is so complex. Customer mind is a mammoth machine that keeps churning out all sorts of complex things. I mean, sales guys, they just want people to, pay their money and buy their stuff. That's not the way it works. Right? So you can go on, what I call scientificizing, if you will, if that's ever a term, how synergy is created. I have a quick point of view, and I'm going to show this and jump back so that we can have a quick discussion on this. I believe, whether it is in large companies or small companies, and small companies in that sense are a little unclear, right? What drives synergy is two people saying that I'm willing to work for you, right? I'm watching you, don't worry. Because both of us have the exact same goal. Whether to create customer value and therefore create value for the company, whether to create a harmonious workplace, whatever it is. So one of the things I would encourage you, and I don't want to sermonize about it, all of you who are building a business and who have not yet become the largest you can be, is to create a culture that creates synergy. Harmonious cultures create synergy. Disharmonious political cultures do not. It is not about science alone. Sure, you should do the process of synergy, like we said, common goal setting, common evaluation, common working together, teamwork, etc. That's all good. But if you don't have a people culture, two teams or two departments willing to work with each other, two departments working for the same purpose of creating value for the customer, then it's possible that you can, become big someday. But I can also tell you, you'll have serious issues of internal pain of growing up. Think of a flight. You have a captain in the flight when you're taking a flight from here to Delhi or wherever, who's the commander of the plane, and you have his, second in command, a flight engineer or a co-pilot or whatever you call them. They don't think same. They're two different minds. And they're in charge of 500 bodies in the airplane. They think independently, but they also learn how to work together. In summing up, that's what I would say. That we got to think of how do I create a culture that encourages people to think independently, but work together. And this is where I will stop my analogy of the watch and the car, because they don't even think independently, which is why they're machines. We are people. We're all got the ability to think independently, and think independently we must. When we over-synergize, and I've seen companies which have got over-synergized, that means the marketing guy is actually thinking like a sales guy, and the sales guy is also thinking like a sales guy. That means that in the company, everybody is focused on sales. Very few people are thinking of the customer, which is where the marketing starts. That's what I in my, I don't know if it's short or not, but presentation, I'd love to, sit down with Walter and Sanjeev and discuss some more with your